and an anvil, and a number of tools to go with the anvil, and a variety of hammers and chisels and so forth. So I left some of the stuff on the table there. On the left side, it's just tools that I typically use, different hammers and chisels. On the right side is some of the junk that I've made in the past. Most of what was made back when blacksmiths were popular was more utilitarian tools.
Wow.
Nowadays, a blacksmith is more of a hobby, and there's a lot of people just making art objects with it. Things that were never even considered back during the Civil War times. They got a good piece of steel, that was something to work with. To waste it on a bird or make a snake out of a file, that would be a ridiculous waste of materials as well as a waste of time. So I'm just beating on a piece here that I just heated up a few minutes ago. Not really making anything in particular, but just to show you what could be done when the steel is nice and hot. But you might have some questions. Yeah.
How long does it take to make something like that?
Well, you gotta describe exactly what to make.
A sword.
Or even something about the word.
Okay, pickaxe.
How about, or I was gonna say.
Pickaxe or
Well,
shovel?
a pickaxe would be a larger piece of steel. The bigger the piece of steel, the longer it's going to take to heat up in the fire, and the more energy it's going to take to get hard on that steel to get it shaped to where you want it. This particular fire is probably not big enough to really successfully do a pickaxe, because a pickaxe might start with a chunk of steel that's 2 inches by 2 inches square, and when you put it so long.
Okay.
A little piece like this is easy to heat up and demonstrate, and this little fire is fine for that. To make something really elaborate, like something for a latch or a lock,
Okay.
would be very sophisticated, might take a lot more time and some specialized tools for it. Any other questions? Yeah,
What kind of training would you need to have to be a blacksmith?
right now, nothing.
So you
But
just
back in earlier times, when you really wanted to be a professional blacksmith to make your living, you may have started out at the age of 14 to go to a blacksmith and start a career being an apprentice for at least 7 years.
wow.
You'd stay with that blacksmith and his family for 7 years. Work probably 12, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. After that, you would become a journeyman. The journeyman would go from town to town and work with different blacksmiths, typically for no more than just food and lodging. And after a period of years as a journeyman, then he might become a master blacksmith and have his own shop. But the rules were rather strict back then. You were not going to just buy an anvil and a hammer and go out and be a blacksmith. You wouldn't be able to compete with the professionals at that rate anyway. But nowadays, blacksmithing has become almost a hobby, and the tools and the scarcity of anvils have made it just almost prohibitive because it's so darn expensive. Anvils used to be like $12, $15, $20. I got my anvil for $25. Now an anvil like this would go for maybe $800 or $900.
Oh my God.
So a lot of the anvils disappeared in the Second World War. They were used as scrap metal to make the armament and support the troops through Europe. You got a question?
How long would it take to make one of these tools?
Well, again, it's going to be how exactly you wanted that tool. If I wanted to just hammer out well, let's say, I got a device here. This is a tool, rather simple. This might take me an hour or so to make. A professional blacksmith that had done this all his life might take half that time. But what it is, it goes in the anvil, and as an example, it just holds things down. It's like a clamp. Now that's in there tight. Wow. Now it's loose. So it's a pretty handy tool.
Nice.
Something like that would only take about an hour or so to make. This started out as a, I don't know, I think I had about 3/4 round bar to make this. I just kept hammering it until I got about a 1/2 inch here and just spread it out as a kind of foot on the front. Some tools would be a lot harder to make. They did actually make files, and that was a specialty. They would take a sharp chisel and gouge out each one of these teeth. I would think that would take a long time. The blacksmith, because the scarcity of steel and the cost of it, would use a lot of scrap steel, and something like this was made from a railroad spike, but I made it into a skinning knife. There's another railroad spike that I made a barbecue fork out of.
Nice.
Again, it's just a recreation of scrap steel into something else that's more desirable. This is a nail. I just put a knot in it. Totally wasted time.
Well, what was it? A nail with a knot in it.
Yeah. I made a snake.
Of course you would like that.
I used a farrier's file. Now, farrier's file is what they used to trim up the horse's hoof before they put the shoe on it. They had to trim it up, make it smooth, or get the shoe on correct. It looked to me like scales, so I made a snake out of it. Again, the aspect of what they were trying to use the metal for back in the earlier times, that would be a total waste, ridiculous waste of time and materials. But it's kind of fun to do. No more questions?
When did you start
When-
being a blacksmith?
I've been with the Blacksmith Guild here in Midway for about 6 years, but I was beating up metal when I was 12 years old. 60 years.
Nice.
Any more questions? Come on, I can make up an answer for anything.
What are those?
But most of the stuff that you see hanging around here has been donated from people who have cleaned up their barns, they found some unusual horseshoes, devices and so forth. Donated to Midway and we demonstrated. Of course, you've all seen horseshoes. The blacksmith actually made horseshoes, but typically they were a generic horseshoe with just a C-shaped form, and the farrier, the one who knew the horse's foot and how to take care of a horse's foot, would trim it appropriate for that horse or that hoof, whatever was the problem with the horse. Now here's something you probably haven't seen too much of. These came in pairs. I don't have a matching pair, but I've got 2 sides. Got any idea what that would be? You think get it? No?
Okay.
No? This is a shoe for an ox. And in very early times, an ox was a whole lot more valuable than a horse because they were so much stronger. They weren't any good in racing, but they sure were strong. But in earlier times, there were probably as many oxen on a farm as there were horses. Just pull logs out of the woods, clear the ground. So you just don't see very many of these.
My class, we just want to, what do you say?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, well, enjoy your day.